This is Gary Atensi with CNTV, and today we're in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I'm here with Meeting the Challenge. Since 1989, this consulting firm has been helping clients understand and comply with federal disability laws. I'm here with Kent Kelly, who is the president. Kent, thanks for joining us here today. Let's start off a little bit about yourself. In 2010, you came on with this organization. Share with me how this got involved for you.
Well, it's a great story. I'd been involved in a number of different occupations and careers over my life. Felt a little dissatisfied with the outcome of those because I worked for primarily companies that were interested in the bottom line. So I decided to make a career change and work with a company that was more interested in making a difference than making a profit.
Making a difference, fantastic. This is a company that really was started with technology in mind. Is technology something that continues to be created, and how does it benefit those with disabilities?
We always remain involved in the aspect of technology. Primarily today what we're looking at about is digital accessibility, and that's the accessibility of websites and how people communicate with either their customers or the citizens of a state or municipal government. So technology remains very critical to the progress and implementation of the ADA.
Excellent. Let me ask you, obviously knowledge in any sector is important, but really it is the acquiring that knowledge, disseminating that knowledge, making it useful for the end user. Is that really what you do here?
Yes. Well, originally, it was to raise awareness about the ADA. Today, we are primarily focused on implementing the ADA. We feel that after 25 years of talking about it, it's time to do something about it. So we continue to train people and provide technical assistance. We've trained probably about 55,000 people over the last 20 years. We've answered at least 125,000 technical assistance calls, and we've disseminated about almost 1 million pieces of information about the ADA.
The mission has always been, and the focus is to ensure a world that is basically accessible to everyone. For over 25 years, they've been doing that. What are the folks we're helping here? We're talking about 1 in 5. That's a pretty great number.
That's great. I can tell that you've done your research. 1 in 5 is right. That's about 50 million people in America. And one of the things that you must consider, and we say this all the time in our interviews and media and publicity, is that anybody can become disabled at a moment's notice, whether it's something health-wise that affects them or an accident or whatever. So we're trying to create a more accessible world for everyone, regardless whether they have a disability or they don't, because we understand that that ramp not only helps somebody who's using a wheelchair, but it also helps the UPS delivery man, the mom with a stroller, or somebody with a walker or whatever.
Absolutely. I would imagine the laws that are written for disability, they can become quite complex, not only in their wording, but in their jargon. Obviously, for you to be able to go out and implement this, we have to understand what those laws mean, and is that something that you were able to train?
So true. As I had mentioned earlier, we've trained a tremendous amount of people. We've studied the law for over 25 years. Back in 1991, we were awarded the first of 5 consecutive 5-year grants for administering the Rocky Mountain ADA Center. So we haven't sat around on our laurels over those 25 years. We have studied all disability rights laws in and out, and we've become acknowledged as one of the leading experts on disability rights laws in the country.
Why is it important for organizations and companies to be in compliance? Why is that ounce of prevention very important on the front end so there's no regret on the back end?
Well, first of all, as we believe it's the right thing to do. We all know people with disabilities, and we all know that their lives can be much easier if they can go to an accessible restaurant, accessible city hall, in an accessible hotel or whatever. So I firmly believe it's the right thing to do. But if you're not going to look at it that way, look at it from a perspective of risk management, because the U.S. Department of Justice is the enforcement agency for this, and they are tired of people not complying. So they are on a mission to enforce the law, and they're going to have a record amount of settlement agreements this year. So if you can't do it because it's the right thing, then do it because it's going to manage your risk.
One of the first steps of meeting that challenge is basically efficiently assessing a facility. Share with me this proprietary software that you guys are able to go out in the field and do.
Sure. We've developed proprietary software over the last 3, almost 4 years to collect and organize and manage the tremendous amounts of data that we collect. For instance, on a door, just a door alone, there's probably 32 plus measurements that we have to take. We have to document each and every one of those so we can not only confirm to the organization that we're working for that we actually did the work, but also that our findings and recommendations are valid and accurate. So as a result of that, a typical project will result in 70, 80,000 line items of data, which have probably 20 records in each line. It's a massive amount of data. So we don't want to just hand an entity that we're working for this 600-page report. We want to give them a database so they can say, okay, we want to work on curb ramps. They filter our database, and then they get a list and a priority of the curb ramps that they should address and how much time we think they would be allowed if the DOJ or Department of Justice came and did an audit for them.
Wonderful. So you're talking about putting a detailed transition plan in place for them,
Yes.
something that doesn't take place over a weekend, and basically regardless of single building, multiple dwelling, or even outdoor areas, are these all areas that you've worked in?
Yes, they are. We've worked from transportation from Seattle to New York, from municipal and state governments all across the country. We've worked for little tiny office buildings and doctors' offices, all the way up to the major healthcare providers. We believe that accessibility is something for all sizes, all types of entities, and that's what we're here for. We're here to help you comply. We're here to be your partner in accessibility and help you implement the
Obviously, these facilities, you're able to go out and do a survey after the fact, after they've been built, make sure they're up to compliance. What about those that are just building a facility? Are you able to work with the architects on the front end to make sure that it's all done right?
Yes, we do. A big part of our business is providing architectural plan review. We'll go through every step of the design and construction document process to ensure that not only do they make the right drawings, but they also are translated in the construction process. So we provide design review and then also construction management by going out and making sure that the contractors complied with the little nuances of the ADA required in new construction. And that brings up, if you don't mind, I'd like to take a second. One of our showcase projects involved plan review and construction management for Denver International Airport. We were fortunate enough to work for the largest architecture firm in the world, Gensler Architects, to be their accessibility consultant to make sure the South Terminal project was accessible.
Excellent. Obviously, accessibility to all is more than just physical barriers out in a building. We're talking about discrimination, especially in the housing areas. Are these areas that you're able to help folks as well?
Yes, it seems like you've done your research, and I appreciate that. But yes, we do provide multifamily construction and development accessibility consulting. We help the developers ensure that their developments comply with the Federal Housing Administration rules and standards on accessibility, as well as any HUD certifications required for financing.
You also mentioned before that also accessibility to transportation, knowing the laws through the FTA, not only in Colorado, but does it change state by state?
There are different unique properties of each Department of Transportation within the states, but they all fall under the Department of Transportation and the Federal Transit Administration. And we provide accessibility consulting, ADA compliance reviews for the FTA. And as I said, we've worked from Seattle to New York, helping transit agencies comply with the ADA.
Your firm basically really covers a broad range, everything to do with accessibility, the laws out there. It's much more than just answering a question. It's really understanding the question of a client. Does this make that technology process a long time process, more than just going in one time?
It does, and in fact, that's funny that you bring that up. Amusing, because to this very day, we're working on modifying our data collection process as well as our ability to manage data, because it does change all the time. And for instance, public right-of-way, sidewalks, intersections, signals, there are new standards that are coming out for that. So we've kept up to date with those, already developing the software for the accessibility guidelines before they're standards. So once they become standards, which will be any day, we'll be ready to go and help cities and states comply with the new standards.
Obviously, your company, for over a quarter of a century, has prided itself on the fact of knowing the answers when it comes to disability laws. But more important is the fact, like you mentioned earlier, of actually training others to educate themselves. Share with me a little bit of the training more in depth of how you're able to do that.
Sure. A lot of times when a government entity falls under a settlement agreement with the Department of Justice, there's almost always a training component of that settlement agreement. We not only provide training for the Department of Justice required training, ADA training courses for these entities, but we also provide proactive training. There are a lot of communities out there that realize it's the right thing to do. They want their staff to know what it is to define a service animal or effective communication when they need a sign language interpreter. So we help train people across our 6-state region, as well as some other trainings across the nation for other entities, Title III entities, for instance, amusement parks.
So be it one-on-one, face-on, or webinar, or using any of the technology, this is all possible. Obviously, ongoing research projects are something you take part in. We're talking about client groups out there, as well as self-evaluations. These are all areas that throughout the years you have really been the go-to people when it comes to disability compliance.
And I agree with that. I, in all humility, say that we're the leading experts on disability rights laws in the universe. I mean, it's amusing to our staff here, but I am committed to that, and I want us to stay abreast of all of the changes and the idiosyncrasies of the law. It's very complicated. We want to be there to help when people need us, and we want to be there to help them comply.
Wonderful. Once again, viewers, take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. You're going to see their contact information. You're also going to see the website. On the website, you can take a quick history lesson of where this company has come from. Regardless of what aspects they've been able to help with, really it boils down to creating a fully accessible world to the folks out there. This is a company that began in 1989. If you check out the website, you can take a look a little more in depth at the services that we've touched on a little bit there as well. They've also got some client groups that they've worked with there, and many resources that are available on the website as well. Once again, that is Meeting the Challenge, located here in Colorado Springs, Colorado, since 1989. This is Gary Atencio with CNTV. And if you don't know, now you know.